Hello, and welcome. Welcome on into the Swear Word. I'm your host, Brandon Swear, and hey, this is a podcast for the chilihead community, by the chilihead community. Regardless of your spice tolerance, this is the place for you. Man, we have an amazing episode here tonight. 3 sauces on deck. We're going to be diving into a deep discussion on nutrients and feeding these pepper plants to make sure they maximize and do the best that they can do to produce those super hot peppers that we're looking for. Let's go ahead and start episode 97. Welcome on in, Swear Nation. So glad to have everyone here rocking and rolling with us, whether you're tuning in on YouTube, Spotify, Rumble, Apple Podcasts. Thank you so much for being here and making this podcast what it is. Continue to share this out with other like-minded chili heads or, individuals that are just curious about the world of hot, because this podcast is where you can find everything to do with the world of hot. So whether you're new to the game or you're a full-blown capsaicin junkie, I'm glad you're here. Up tonight, we have 3 amazing sauces. These sauces are from Island Sun, Canada. We're going to be diving into the last 3 into the sauce lineup from Island Sun, Canada. And we're also going to be diving into a discussion talking about NPK, talking about organic versus synthetic. What does it mean? And really kind of getting a deeper dive into what kind of organic amendments will fit these different ratios and different times that you would use this. So, talking that whole process through, we're going to even see, do these numbers matter? If so, really get a bigger breakdown of it all. And so you can know how you're going to be able to grow bigger, better peppers, because the point of this is to increase the heat and increase the yield, right? So if you're not feeding it right, you're not going to be doing it right. So also want to give a brief shout out, as this episode is brought to you by WebDX.1. Let's do this. Let's go ahead and kick it on over to Hot or Not. Welcome on into Hot or Not. We have an amazing lineup from Island Sun, Canada. We have 3 sauces here. We have the tomato brulee, Bajan taiga, and board in Woodstock. So looking forward to diving into all 3 of these. As you can see there, tomato brulee is a nice, beautiful, bright red color to the overall sauce. I love the labeling. The cutout of the tomato is very, eye appealing and catching, and really conveys the message of what's going on. The Bajan taiga is ready to strike. You see the tiger is just really pound up, ready to go. And board in Woodstock, man, that pepper on the front of that just absolutely screams that it's going to light you up. I am looking forward to this and ready to dive on in. As always, if this is your first time checking out the podcast or Hot or Not in general, I do not like to review the products as far as the ingredients that are in there. I really like to let my taste buds do the exploration first, and then from there I'll grade it, rate it, and then read the overall ingredients. So, and also always have my trusty tablespoon to do the sampling. But what we will start out with is tomato brulee first. So go ahead and give it a good shake. Nice, once again, nice jar size going on here. Very hearty helping of overall product. Just absolutely loving this look there. Nice, beautiful pop to the seal. And wow, this thing smells amazing. It's like very reminiscent of a tomato soup that you're going to be getting, but I am picking up some very faint kind of savory notes as well as pepper notes towards the finish of that aroma. Man, oh man, I now just want grilled cheese and to smother it with this. But let's first get into this one here. So tomato brulee from Island Sun, Canada. Go ahead and grab a hearty tablespoon. Cheers. Wow. Wow. That is magical. Absolutely magical. The tomato texture is just enough texture to give you nice, break between the two. Absolutely soothing, very savory, a touch of sweetness, and then a crisp, bright pepper note towards the finish. And man, you can feel it now. The heat, the way that I break that down, it is, I view things in heat and burn. Heat is that initial first 30 seconds pop. You're really not getting much going on in that first initial window. You're really taking in all the great flavors, everything that's going on, the process, the aromas hitting the nostrils, the flavors exploding on the tongue, and then you start to get a nice flavor profile of the pepper going on. And from that, you're having it hit the back of the throat just ever so slightly. While it is a nice sizzling roar on the back of the throat, it is not a violent or one that's going to throw you, off for a loop. So if you're just starting out, this is going to be an absolute sauce that you're going to love and be able to dive into and not worry about burning yourself down. Now, this sauce right here is going to be phenomenal as, mixing. My first thought, I already said it. I think I'm going to now have to make a very nice grilled cheese, and I'm going to be using that in substitute of what I would normally say make a tomato soup with, or maybe I incorporate some 2 or 3 tablespoons into a small cup of tomato soup with the grilled cheese. That might also be pretty good. Absolutely loving this one. You're definitely picking up some onion. It would taste like maybe some garlic. Some of the herb nature is going on in there. I think that might be a bit of citrus towards the finish on this, but not 100% certain. Definitely some sweet notes going on there, so probably some kind of a sugar or, a sugar alternative in there. And then the way that the heat is hitting the back of the throat makes me think it's a Superhot of some sort. And the way that it was gradually building, I don't know, maybe a ghost pepper based on just the overall way that it went. Could be completely wrong, but it does subside pretty quick, and all you're left with is that amazing flavor. So let's go ahead and jump on into the ingredients. If you're just starting out, as I said, you're going to be able to enjoy this one. You're going to be able to lather it up, and you're going to have a great time. Now, if you are constantly working on your own personal best, this is going to be a nice mild sauce for you, but tons and tons of flavor. Absolutely phenomenal stuff here. So, tomato brulee. The ingredients are San Mazzaro plum peeled tomatoes, Granny Smith apples, onion, sugar, which is brown sugar, garlic, spice, xanthan gum, and ghost pepper. There we go. That Granny Smith apple and that brown sugar is definitely carrying forward a beautiful note in here. It is just enough sweetness to be noticeable, but also not so much that it's overpowering. It brings some nice body to this. It helps cut down the acidic nature that is already coming forward on the tomatoes themselves. It's really smoothing it out, bringing forward that nice body and that bold flavor. And yes, definitely the onion and garlic is super noticeable from a standpoint of ingredients that really just popped out outside of obviously the tomato. And yes, it looks like it was pretty spot on with the ghost pepper, and it's one of the last ingredients on there, so it is very much indicative of how that played out. The ghost pepper is noticeable in the flavor profile and the way that it burns, but it is not anything like eating a real ghost pepper. It is very well managed and controlled through this sauce. So let's go ahead and read off some scores here. All right, so tomato brulee from Island Sun, Canada. We have heat coming in at 2.1, aroma of 4.21, flavor of 4.36, and versatility of 4, burn of 2.1 for a total swear word rating of 3.35. There we go. Absolutely amazing. That is tomato brulee. And, I didn't touch on it too much, but this is definitely one that you would be able to utilize and incorporate and work in on, say, any kind of dish that you would normally be, say, using a tomato product in it. So pizzas, subs, sandwiches, stews, soups, absolutely going to be amazing. As well as I can see this thing actually pairing very well with, say, like some pulled chicken tacos. That's going to be absolutely amazing, and I look forward to checking that one out. But let's go ahead and we will open up Bajan Taiga. So let me grab that, give it a good shake. Bajan Taiga is one that started it all. If you caught the Island Sun Canada episode where we got to discuss this, this is definitely the sauce that started it all, and I'm looking forward to it. Very bright yellowish orange overall color to the sauce. You're seeing some nice texture to the overall sauce body. Absolutely phenomenal smell. You're picking up a little bit of a sweetness. Maybe that smells like maybe mango going on here. It smells like maybe some turmeric, and definitely picking up the onion, garlic. That's the main notes that I'm able to pick up on the overall sauce. So looking forward to this, but let's go ahead and get in there. Get us a healthy tablespoon. And cheers. Wow. Wow. Absolutely amazing. Bajan Taiga. That is phenomenal. Right off the bat, let's talk about this. The way that this comes on, you are greeted with this savory yet slightly sweet note of the sauce body. And as it's going, you're kind of getting a cooling, refreshing, and as that hits, then the mango comes in. Then there's a bright cut of like a savory note. The turmeric's coming through, the onion, the garlic. Then there's a great pepper note. And as that pepper note comes back through, you're also greeted yet again with a slight accent as the sweetness fades away from the overall flavor profile on this. Man, oh man, is this a flavor-packed wild ride sauce. Now, if you are just starting out, this is one that you're going to notice that'll be a little bit hotter. You're still going to be able to manage. You're still going to be able to utilize this. You're going to love it. You're going to be able to incorporate this with quite a few things. Burger sandwiches, tacos, quesadillas. I'm going to pretty well be applying this just about anywhere and everywhere that I can think of, as well as like this might not be the first thing you think of, but for, as summer really starts to get rolling around, that's going to be a beautiful sauce to be able to use a scoop or two and make yourself a nice salad dressing as the base, because that bright mango is really being able to accent, and you're getting that great turmeric, that onion, the garlic, just a nice savory body and well balanced of sweetness and savoriness the whole way through. So absolutely loving that. If you are constantly working on your own personal best, this sauce right here is going to be a nice medium sauce for you. This would go great with a, shrimp tacos. It's pretty endless as far as what I could see this thing working out well with. The only thing I probably wouldn't gravitate towards is going to be something in the dessert realm. Not really geared for that. Not a big problem. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and read off some ingredients here. So for Bajan Taiga from Island Sun, Canada, we have ingredients of, sure enough, mango, onion, white vinegar, Scotch bonnet, then fresh lime juice, turmeric, water, garlic, sugar, which is organic cane sugar, mustard seed, sea salt, lemon juice, ghost pepper, and paprika. Absolutely phenomenal. The mustard seed is very well done in this sauce, very well accented in there. It's not very, forward facing. It's not going to beat you over the head with it. It's a nice subtle note through there. It really helping bring these ingredients all together. That mango is absolutely the star of the show. That citrus cut really is that palate cleanser between as this whole thing goes. I'm loving every single bit of this. And I would assume mainly the sugars and the organic cane sugar and the mango is the sweetness factor coming forward through this based on what I'm seeing ingredient-wise. And absolutely well done there. Very nice balance and well played on Bajan Taiga from Island Sun, Canada. So let's go ahead and read off some scores here. Heat coming in at 2.9, aroma of 4.17, flavor of 4.3, versatility of 4, burn of 2.9 for a total swear word rating of 3.65. There we go. Another amazing sauce. That is Bajan Taiga from Island Sun, Canada. Absolutely loving that. And, we have one sauce left to go from Island Sun, Canada, and we are going to check out Board in Woodstock all together. So let's go ahead and grab that one here. Give it a good shake. And once again, that beautiful sound of the lid seal opening. So, oh wow. That aroma. It is so unique. You're definitely picking up the jerk smell, but there's a nice kind of a smoky, sweet aroma to that as well. Man, oh man. All right, I'm excited. Let's go ahead and jump on in here. Texture wise, definitely seeing some bits in there, so that's good to see, as well as the overall color is a nice brownish overall look and color to this. Man, you can see the hold on this sauce as I tap it. Man, there it goes. I was trying to see if it was showing on the screen. Sure enough, it is. This has some nice hold. It has some nice body to it. But let's go ahead and jump on in with this one here. Try not to make a mess. Cheers. Wow. Wow. All right. Right off the bat, it has a nice overall zesty spice pop right out the gate. Now, from there, it goes almost from like I can't tell if that's like a nutmeg or what that taste is, but there's something there that seems a little bit familiar. It's almost like nutmeg or cinnamon or something that it seems very familiar up front. And then from there, you get this nice soothing, savory note that comes through. And then as that starts to roll out, you're picking up a nice pepper body, and you can feel as it starts to kick in, it really gets the whole mouth very well incorporated with the overall burn and heat going on. And then it starts to gravitate more towards, say, the back of the mouth, almost the back of the throat. And as I'm saying that now, I kind of feel it sitting on the back of the throat. So absolutely phenomenal there. Very unique. Unlike any jerk sauce that you've ever had or thought of. It is a very unique, amazing approach that goes on here. Now, with the way that this kind of plays out, I'm very curious to know what the ingredients are going on in here, because it has just this magnitude of different spices just kind of exploding on the taste buds, really dancing around doing its thing. Now, the heat continues to build as I'm talking. It has definitely migrated all towards the back of the throat, and it is just sitting there and is slowly ramping up and just turning up the heat. This sauce, compared to the other two reviewed here tonight, this sauce is going to be more geared towards those individuals that are working on their own personal best, or they've been dabbling in hot sauce for a while. This is one that you're going to be able to really get in, enjoy, and love. Some people will see this as a medium sauce. Some will see this as a high heat sauce. It kind of depends on where your tolerance is at there. But if you're just starting out, One to use maybe in moderation, very small amounts until you kind of find out where you're comfortable and work in from there. Now, this sauce as a marinade, this sauce as, a topping to say tacos or a sandwich or a burger, this is going to be absolutely amazing there. A chopped pork sandwich is going to be very well, attributed to being able to benefit from that sauce. I cannot even begin to tell you how amazing this thing is. So let's go ahead and read off some ingredients because I'm curious to know what's going on. So onion, orange juice, pineapples. Then we have soy sauce. So distilled vinegar, green onion, whole chili peppers, olive oil, garlic, lemon juice, ginger, sugars, which is brown sugar, vegetable broth, salt, cinnamon, nutmeg, thyme, black pepper, and allspice. Man, even for the cinnamon and nutmeg to be down so low comparatively on the chart of ingredients, they stand out and they are so noticeable. It is amazing the way that they play together, the way that they intertwine. It really brings to life everything else that's going on here. What I am shocked about is the way that the orange juice and the pineapples on this, that's that sweet note that I'm picking up, but it's really not like in your face noticeable that is orange juice and pineapple. So kudos there. The savory depth, that refreshing savory depth is definitely coming from that broth, and the way the whole thing just kind of comes together is absolutely beautiful. So kudos on Board in Woodstock. Man, that sauce is so unique, so amazing, and just packed with overall heat. The heat on that is, let's see, it says whole chili peppers. So curious to know what that one is from a heat standpoint. All right, here we go. Heat coming in at 3.43, aroma of a 4, flavor of 4.3, versatility of a 4, burn of a 3.6 for a total swear word rating 3.87. There we go. An amazing sauce. That is Board in Woodstock. Man, oh man, a phenomenal sauce from Island Sun, Canada. Absolutely amazing stuff. If you're in Canada and you haven't checked these sauces out, I highly recommend you head on over. I'll have the direct link down below, as well as a link to the main site so you can see the full lineup from Island Sun, Canada. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and start tonight's discussion. All right, so let's kick off things tonight with the big debate. Organic versus synthetic, and what the heck is NPK, and what does it mean for you? So first off, let's talk about organic nutrients. Those are all natural. They're things that, like compost, worm castings, fish emulsion, bone meal. These things, they all feed the plant, and not just the plant, but they also feed and help build up the soil life. Think of the soil as a living organism, because that's what it is. It's a network of living organisms. So the more you can build up that soil, the better it's going to be for your grow from an organic standpoint. So typically these type of amendments or nutrients that are in the organic side, they're slower to break down, but also tend to build up a stronger, more long-term soil health. So that's the benefits of the organic nutrients. But what about synthetics? Where do they have their stay? Where's their benefit? Where do they kind of come into the whole thing here? So let's talk synthetic nutrients. These are going to be your bottled formulas or dry salt mixtures, stuff that's just going to be commonly where you see where it'll say 20-20-20 or Bloom Buster or Super Growth or Fast Acting. these things, they are going to be, in that realm of fast acting. You're going to be able to measure out exactly how much nutrient you're putting in and really get that nice and fine dialed in. And in all honesty, I have used both of these methods. So I can kind of give you some ideas and standpoints from my own personal perspective, as well as a little bit further deep down breakdown of, say, maybe the organic side, because that's typically harder for most folks to just jump into unless you know about what's going on. So they both have their place in your grow setup. And, one thing to really note is it's not about which one is better. It's about what works for you, your setup, your goals. Are you in containers? Synthetics might give you more control over that. But if you're in ground, then organics definitely win that argument for me any day of the week. Now, as we're breaking all this down, let's dive a little bit into, say, the NPK side of things. You might have heard 20-20-20, and you're like, what does that even mean? So NPK is that kind of holy trinity, if you will, of plant feeding. You'll see the 3 numbers on every kind of fertilizer bag or organic amendment. It's ultimately, you'll see things like 4-2-3 or 10-10-10. So what does NPK actually stand for? N stands for nitrogen, which this tends to drive the leafy growth, and it's great for, the overall, just the growth aspect. We'll leave it there. So like if you have items that you're growing, plants that you're growing, where you're going to be not getting into a fruiting standpoint, but it's just a growth, you're going to be able to really benefit from having more of a nitrogen, so a higher N on the NPK. P is for phosphorus, so this helps with the rooting. This also helps with flower production and the overall fruit. Being able to see that benefit really come through, that's on the phosphorus side. So that's the P. K is potassium. So this is for the overall health of the plant. This helps with the fruit quality. This helps with disease resistance. So, as you're really getting dialed in here on these, you want to be cautious of the overall ratios at which, if you're doing synthetics, what are you putting in there? How much are you putting in there? Because all these things matter. If your leaves are starting to yellow, it could be a nitrogen deficiency. Could be many other things, but it could be a nitrogen deficiency. If it is dropping flowers, then you might have a phosphorus issue. If you've got weak stems or small pods or just very, overall just weak, sickling looking plants, you probably have a low potassium issue going on. So, as I had mentioned, and I will have linked down below as well, this breakdown for how you can, view these organic amendments and the different ratios at which you might use them. So for organic amendments utilizing, say, the NPK breakdown, we'll talk about this first section being nitrogen focused or nitrogen high natural amendments that you can work in, organic amendments. So blood meal is typically 12 on the NPK scale. And that's going to be fast acting. It's high in nitrogen. And you kind of want to use this one a little bit sparingly, definitely as the different stages of these plants. So if your plants are young, they're just starting out, they're seedlings, or they haven't even sprouted their true leaves, no real amendments are needed. You can get away with some very diluted, watered down, which we'll dive into some further detail on that. But this is not the time to just flood them with nitrogen. You'll burn them up. They'll die. They won't like it. Some other organic amendments that you can work in for nitrogen would be things like fish emulsion. That's typically going to be around a 5-1-1 ratio on the NPK scale. This is liquid, it's fast absorbing. This is great for younger plants. This is one that you could use to be able to kind of dilute that down and be able to help out with some young seedlings. Alfalfa meal, this is typically about a 3-1-2. This boosts the microbial activity. It's very mild. It is a very slow release. So that is another good option. Another one for nitrogen is going to be compost. So this one kind of varies because obviously depending on the kind of compost you're using, how much you're using, all that stuff matters. But oftentimes this is very balanced. It is very slow release and great for like conditioning your soil and really bringing some life to it. Bat guano is very high in nitrogen. This is oftentimes you'll find anywhere from a 10-3-1 ratio, but it's also excellent for the vegetative state. And to really kind of use this one in moderation and figure out where the plants are responding and how they're responding well to it. Another good one for nitrogen is going to be feather meal. So roughly this is going to be about a 12 on the inside for nitrogen for the NPK. This is slow releasing nitrogen. So this is better geared towards, say, long-term feeds. So if you're needing a little bit more of a stretch, feather meal has that slower release of nitrogen. Now, as far as the phosphorus goes on the NPK scale, things like bone meal that come in at 3-15-0 roughly, those are great for flowering. They're great for fruiting. This also is a slow release. So bone meal would be a great one to work in there. Now you have rock phosphate, which is typically anywhere from 0.30 to 0.33. So as you can see, there's quite a drastic jump in between the two, but this is also long lasting, very slow acting, and you're not really going to have to worry about, overdoing it with this. You kind of just set it, let it go, and it'll typically last out the season. You might have to top off towards the last month or two, depending on how long your grow season is. Now, fish bone meal is typically about 3-16-0 roughly on the NPK scale. Now, this is slightly faster than bone meal to be able to use, absorb, get in there for the plants and really help build up the plants in the soil. So if you're looking for something that's a little bit of a fast acting, fish bone meal would be one of those things. As well as bat guano is a 3-10-1 roughly. It's pretty high in phosphorus there. And so that's an excellent option for being able to boost that bloom season and that bloom period in the plant's life cycle. Banana peel compost. This is one that, not going to be something that you typically find or be able to buy. This would be something that you would end up making yourself most times. There are places that do sell it, but this is going to be roughly about a 0.342. So this one decomposes pretty fast, but also has a nice benefit of potassium. So really, you're going to be able to get this might carry over a little bit more into the potassium breakdown, but wanted to go ahead and mention it here because this is also a good alternative to be able to still get some of that phosphorus in there. So potassium on the NPK. This is the K. So potassium, some options that you can really think of here are going to be things like kelp meal or seaweed extract. That's going to be roughly like a 104 roughly. This promotes strong stems, resistance, and it's going to increase the overall flavor of what your plants are producing. So really kind of helps benefit that in that area. Being able to, incorporate that is going to be great for having a nice, healthy plant. Wood ash, so like hardwoods, we'd mentioned this in a previous episode as well, but being able to use wood ash is very high in potassium and you're going to be able to, help raise the pH as well. So use this one cautiously. So this is oftentimes about a 0.005 on the NPK scale. So, main thing here is be cautious on how much you're using, because it could alter the overall pH balance of your soil. So green sand is another option for potassium. So for potassium, green sand is going to be roughly about a 0.003, very slow releasing, a very long-term soil health boosting amendment to work in there. So one to keep in your arsenal for that. So the next one is going to be sulfomag, or, ultimately sulfur, phosphorus, and magnesium. This is going to be a 0.022 roughly. As that's going to break down. This is also going to be able to add magnesium and sulfur into the soil and really have that be beneficial for your plants. And as I had mentioned before, you have compost made from banana peels. This one's definitely going to vary, but it's going to be very fast decomposing. It's a great source of potassium, and it is loaded with micronutrients. So there is some, ways and alternatives for the breakdown on the organic side of NPK that you can put into action right now for your grow in this season or future seasons. And I will have the link for that breakdown down below as well, so that you can see it printed out and in front of you, and you can know exactly what you need to combat as you start to see these issues arise or get ahead of it. So up next, we're going to talk about the ratios for each stage. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into the NPKs by really fine-tuning the overall ratios. So, the overall ratios here that I'm talking about is not really going to be talking about the spicy to sweet sauce ratio here. We're going to be able to really talk about the overall needs for each one of these cycles. This is going to be perfect science, but this will give you a good starting point and good point of, rule of thumb, if you will. So seedlings, you don't really need much. As I had mentioned before, the main thing you're going to be focusing on is maybe a nice light 1-1-1 or something like a 2-1-2 at like a quarter of a strength. You want to kind of dilute this. Seedlings don't really need all that extra boost to get going or get started. They just need, the temperature to be pretty stable, nice, warm, and have that moisture going on to really let the seeds germinate and do their thing. As far as the vegetative state, this is going to be more of the nitrogen focus. This is something that you're going to want to use like a 4-2-3. This is going to be, ultimately bulking up the plant and getting it ready to be able to handle the fruiting, the flowering, all the actual production side of the pepper plant. So, as that fruiting and flowering comes in, this is going to be your time to really pause and let that shift. So you're going to want to drop down the nitrogen. You're going to boost up the phosphorus and the potassium. So you're going to want to gear towards something like a 2-5-8, or even a like bloom booster if you're looking for something more like that. It's going to be like a 1-3-5 that can really help there. And as you're looking at these and as you're breaking these down, whether you're looking at organic or synthetic, with synthetics, there's going to be many different companies that are out there giving you very similar ratios, but also there's going to be certain ones that give you more fine-tuned ratios. So being cautious of that as you go through these stages is going to be absolutely important. Another thing to not forget, definitely for peppers, is obviously calcium, magnesium. These are going to be, for heavy feeds. CalMag's your friend. I know it's often debated conversation in the overall growing community. This is going to be more prevalent or more of a need with, say, synthetic regimens. So something to watch, though, as you're doing this all is really to be able to make sure your pH is just right, because too high or too low and your plants won't be able to absorb those nutrients. And that is going to be absolutely crucial if you are using the synthetic route, because it is very easy to throw that pH out of whack and then have your plants lock out those nutrients to where they do not absorb them, they do not benefit from them, and you are literally just dumping money away. Too many have done this. It is a common issue. Don't let it be you. Always, refer to your own notes, or, reach out and find the help needed. So as we continue on with this grow series, there's been a few questions that have come up, and they seemed suitable to be addressed here. So I wanted to go ahead and answer some questions from Swear Nation. So we had a question come in regarding fish emulsion. Is that enough on its own, or should we be working in other things? So fish emulsion, while some people really see great benefit from it, and definitely not something that you want to rule out of your overall grow, it's, in my personal opinion, better for young plants getting started, but not something that you would want to use solely as the only overall feed or amendment that you're using. Some other things I really like to work in there is compost teas, as well as just a nice, well-balanced organic mix. If you're using, say, a in-container grow, having that soil, that balance of that organic mix, really helping, boosting what's going on in there. You think of the fish emulsion and the compost tea as really feeding the microbes, boosting the overall life, and continuing to flood the plant with these amazing nutrients. So next, we have another question here, which is, do synthetic nutrients kill the soil life? Well, the answer to that, from my own personal experience and from what I have read and those that I've talked to, if you overdo it, absolutely 100% of the time, it will kill, strip, and deplete the soil life. So, but if you're using it properly, if you're watering it in well, and you can let those plants grow and still keep some of that soil microbe life alive, you're going to be in a great spot. Now, the way that I have personally viewed and used synthetics, and knowing that I started out with the synthetic route initially and have switched on over to fully organic, is I think of now, if you've made the transition to organic growing and that's your route, think of synthetics as that quick need Band-Aid, but not something that you would want to lean on full time. Now, if you're doing synthetics are what works for you, and that's the only thing you can kind of get to work out in your overall grow, then no reason to change that. Make sure you're watching the pH, make sure you're paying attention to what your plants are needing, the signs they're showing, and really kind of keeping that into it, a fine tune on that, because really keeping some of that soil health alive is going to be crucial. Otherwise, you're going to be constantly flooding a different cascading effect of synthetic nutrients in your overall grow, which can get pretty costly. So definitely keep that in mind. Now, as we get ready to sum up this whole entire episode here tonight, it comes down to organic or synthetic. It's all about balance, understanding your NPK, matching your ratios to your growth stage, and keeping your plants healthy and happy, and they will continue to show you the love and the benefit from really listening to them, as silly as that may sound to some. Knowing what you're growing and how you're growing it is going to be crucial, because if you're growing fire, well, you got to feed them the fire. Hey, and as always, if you have questions or if you have an, something that's really kind of triggered through this growing series that you want to know more about, or you want to share some of your growing pictures, the wins, the fertilizing setups, how you are doing it, and to see everything success that you have going on, whether that be from the tips that you've learned here, or maybe you have a tip that you would like to share with the rest of Swear Nation, go ahead and send that on over in socials, tag the swear word. If you want to check out these 3 products covered here on Hot or Not Tonight, I'll have the direct links down below, as well as a main link to the website. If you're in Canada, have not tried these, highly recommend you check them out. Absolutely amazing stuff from Island Sun, Canada. And hey, do not forget, new episodes drop every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central. And you can tune into YouTube, Spotify, Rumble, or Apple Podcasts to catch the full episodes. Hit that follow button and leave me a review if you're on one of the platforms that allow for reviews. And let me know what you think. If you have any questions or anything that you want covered in a future episode. And want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors, podvision.io. If you're looking to grow your brand, start your brand, you hit a bump in the road, you're trying to figure things out, highly recommend checking out podvision.io, as well as webdx.one. Maybe you have an online website already. Maybe it's out of date. Maybe it's not a good representation of you and your business. I highly recommend checking out webdx.one. They'll be able to help you out with that, as well as automate your systems and be able to alleviate some of that burden off of you. I'm Brandon Swear, and from everything from the world of hot, this has been The Swear Word.